My name is Catherine O'Neill.
And I'm Stacey Welton, and this is Fund and Flip.
Welcome to Fund and Flip.
Today we welcome Alex Mustatea, who is from Hamilton, and we're really looking forward to the conversation. Thank you, Alex, for being with us. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm a real estate investor, an active real estate investor based out of Hamilton, Ontario. I am involved with projects throughout the southwestern GTA, southwestern Ontario, various from buy and holds, most recently also short-term rentals, and the primary, let's say the more active side of flipping properties, fix and flip projects.
Well, that is really exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe, I don't know, who else works with you, a little bit about your family?
Sure. Maybe I'll just kind of step back and mention how I got started in real estate investments. I guess going back as far back as about 13, 14 years ago, I was in a position where I've secured a very reasonable bonus for my employment at the time. At that particular moment, I wanted to buy a two-door car, and I was still living at home with my father, and he's politely informed me that if I buy that car, I'm going to have to park it somewhere else, meaning that I have to change the address. So instead, that talked some sense into me, and I bought my first property, which single-family home, which was not meant to be an investment. It was meant to be my own home. So I moved into it. I lived in it for 3 years. Beautiful turnkey, like very minimal work that needed to be done to it. I think I changed the flooring, minimal stuff. About 3 years later, I decided to get married, and that wasn't our dream house anymore. So instead of selling it, I decided to rent it out. And that's how I became a real estate investor and first-time landlord. I was very lucky to have a very good tenant for the better part of 9 years in that property. I got the taste of it. And so I bought another one. I bought our principal residence, or I guess matrimonial home where I'm currently standing. But I bought another rental property. So for the most part, for those following 10 years, I became a very passive real estate investor, basically long-term buy and holds, minimal value add, minimal activity, and just being a landlord. And then I guess it was about late 2019. I come from a mechanical engineering background. I've held positions in both project management and technical sales, traveled quite a bit. As I initially wanted to climb the corporate ladder, over the years, I've sort of lost interest in that and kept wanting to do something on my own. And real estate was always in the back of my mind. So late 2019, I finally understood the potential of forcing appreciation to a property, of buying a single family home, renovating it considerably, turning it into a legal duplex, something that I've heard people talk about, basically having a single family home and doing 2 apartments, but it was never described as it being legal. It was like, okay, I'm just going to try to get another tenant down there, and it would always be a fight between the 2 tenants. It would not be proper living quarters for either one of them. But I finally, in 2019, I realized that, hey, there is a way to do this. The city, the municipality, and the government is incentivizing people to do this by having laws in place to allow you to do a legal duplex. So I started looking for my new project, having a construction background and a hands-on approach. I finally got into my first legal duplex conversion, late 2019, early 2020. And I was able to complete that in about 6 months. I did the perfect BRRRR, or I guess I did the BRRRR strategy. Wasn't perfect in the sense that I didn't pull all my capital out. I rented it out. I refinanced it. I got most of the capital out. And I saw that, hey, this is working. This is like really nice living quarters for both families, legal, fire separation, the whole 9 yards. And I got that's when I kind of developed, I can see a business opportunity. I can see myself doing this. And again, at the time, I thought I would just do it all myself. I would do all this work myself, one at a time, whatever. If I can do 2 a year, that'd be great. And I really got a taste for it. So I started looking at flips, and I kind of grew from there to a point where I'm running multiple projects at the same time. I'm no longer doing the work myself per se, but I'm working very closely with a power team of trades and other resources that I've been able to develop as part of my power team. So
You
that's been my journey up to the active side of real estate investment that I'm currently involved with.
You mentioned a BRRRR. What's a BRRRR?
Sure. So the BRRRR strategy: buy, renovate, rent, repeat. Basically, it's the opportunity to buy a property, force the appreciation, and generally it's done, or quite often it's done, in a duplex conversion. So you're adding that much more value to the project. So you're buying it at a certain value, you're investing additional funds to get it to a legal duplex. Maybe you rent it out, so now you're cash flow positive. You bring the bank in to reevaluate the property, to reappraise it at a much higher value because you forced that appreciation. And then you're refinancing to try to pull as much of your capital out. Now, I've heard a lot of investors, they'll make the claim that now I own a free house. I don't own a free house. I own a house that's heavily leveraged by the bank. The bank is basically funding the entire, even if they're funding 80% loan to value of the newly appraised value, I've been able to obtain to remove all my capital that I've invested. So now I own this property fully funded by the bank. And then continue doing this with that initial capital.
So you talked about like the duplex conversion, but was the property kind of in great condition before you bought it, or was it tired, or even, as in my case, distressed? So tell me a little bit about that, because it was more than just the duplex, right? It was also then kind of modernizing things and making them, I don't know, more acceptable for people today.
100%. So, because we're still talking about my first project. Lots has changed since then, but my initial project, I relied only on myself to be able to do this work because I wasn't aware of what you can do. Like I wasn't educated on the market enough to be able to have the confidence to hire as much as I do now. So at the time, I spent a great deal of effort and time finding the property that I can renovate by myself. So in other words, I wasn't going to take on underpinning. I wasn't going to take on like major structural damage. I relied only on the skills that I had. So we ended up settling or finding the ideal, which ended up being just a beautiful property in the end. It was a 1,000 square foot bungalow, East Hamilton, just off the Red Hill. And it had been in the family for upwards of 40, 50 years. I think it was the original owners. It had been kept in very good condition, however, heavily dated. I think they had updated the kitchen about 25, 30 years ago. So again, like everything was quite dated, but again, in good condition. So no structural damage, no major foundation concerns, things that are like great, like you would not be able to take on by yourself. So a lot of that fit. And then not to mention that, height of the basement. So we did a duplex upstairs, downstairs, and so we needed to use the basement. So there's investors nowadays, or I'm pursuing opportunities nowadays where I may tackle a property where I need to dig out the basement to actually gain the required height. So I was very adamant, I'm not doing that. I'm going to find a property that has the basement height already. So little things like that. So going after this, finding this property, then obviously, I did this fire separation and all the Ontario Building Code requirements, but also took the opportunity to bring it up to modern standards. So brand new kitchen, brand new bathrooms, brand new flooring, paint, trim, opened up a wall just to provide the open concept, pot lights. So yeah, you're taking what it is, like a 40, 50-year-old property, and you're bringing it up to today's standards. You try to modernize it as much as possible, and the idea being to obviously drive it to the point where you can collect top market rent for those two apartments.
And you're providing then, so someone has moved out, but then you've got a rental property, so you're helping people who don't yet want to buy or can't afford to buy, and you're giving them, as you said, like with building code, and and some of the modern look. They like people like pot lights. Yeah, I don't have to worry about having floor lamps or desk or table lamps or whatever, because a lot of people don't have that anymore. So yeah, you're bringing it up, and you're allowing now for two sets of people to be able to live in the same space as one set, which is obviously part of what the Ontario government's going for. They're trying to be able to, whether you like it or not, increase densification, so we can have good living spaces for all the people in who want to live in Hamilton or Toronto or whatever.
Indeed. One of the things that I've done, and I've done this on multiple projects since, considerable improvements on the home efficiency side, like on the home's efficiency. So and taking advantage of the government grant. So again, it's another thing that the government is helping in combination with Enbridge Gas. They'll provide rebates for improvements of the home's efficiency. So that includes additional insulation in the attic, brand new windows all around. I didn't have to change that furnace, but if I changed the furnace, that would have been an additional. And then the spray foam insulation in the basement. So the bills, so now I've turned this thing into a duplex. By the way, this isn't a requirement, but I've also elected to do separate hydrometers, allowing for both units to be individually metered, and therefore the tenants would pay their own utilities. But the combined, I've actually done a brief study from before, the combined cost to heat this house strictly from natural gas and cool it in the summer for a duplex was actually lower than what it used to be before. So there's two families.
So excellent.
Right. And I really maxed out. So it's interesting because you do a home evaluation at the front end once you buy the property. And I mean, this is the type of thing that I've talked at length, and I'm happy to share this with potential investors. You bring the company that does the evaluation. So it's really important that you leave the existing original windows in. They need to see it in its existing shape to evaluate. So they pressurize the home and monitor the rate at which pressure is lost in this old home. So there's a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of opening. So it will not be efficient. You do all your improvements and you do the test again. So it's really nice to see the difference in the efficiency of the home at the end. And again, you get a rebate back for all your investments, but now you've added spray foam in the basement. Like that basement was really cozy in the winter, in the middle of the winter.
Well, that sounds absolutely excellent. And, good for you for having that due diligence, knowing what to do, helping people have a really good place to live. So that sounds great. Why don't you talk a little bit about like you and you said you got married, you and your family, and we sort of left your journey when you were doing your first place. What's happened since then?
So, that first place, that was 6 months of renovation that at the time we have a 4-year-old boy and now a 9-month-old baby girl. When I was doing the renovation of that first project, it was basically 6 months that I was still working my regular job, and then I would be at this project. So it was literally 6 months that I've seen him very little. Like every weekend I'd be there late every night. And it did not, like, that was not something that I really wanted. Now, it was understood for both me and my wife that this is the initial effort. And if I'm going to make a business out of this, then I have to quit my job, and it cannot come at the cost of my family. So since then, I've taken other projects and I've slowly developed the confidence, being able to study the market, being able to appreciate where you need to buy and how you are making maybe some of the profit on the buy, and buy smarter, and then outsource, and then do not just a larger volume, but do more projects at the same time by outsourcing trades. Has allowed me to gain that confidence to the point where by the end of 2020, I was able to quit my job. So this was 6 more months after I completed this first project. I was able to quit my job, and in 2021, I went full time at this. So now in 2021 and then in 2022 as well, I have multiple projects. I have various partnerships in Southwestern Ontario as well, where I'm really hands off, aside from a bi-weekly trip out there, let's say. As well as Toronto, and then the focus is still in Hamilton. Having multiple projects and having general contractors as well as sub-trades, I'm at home. Yes, there's stress levels. Yes, that I'm traveling. but I am home most of the time. I mean, if I'm in the basement or if I'm taking phone calls, but I'm at home a lot more. I can honestly say now, it also happens. My wife is staying at home for the maternity leave. But I can honestly say that I'm actually at home a lot more than I was when I was working. I was in a sales position and I had a territory basically from Kingston to Sarnia and down to Windsor, Niagara Falls. So I'd be all over the place. I may have an appointment in Kingston at 3 o'clock. By the time I get home, it's 6:30 and I'm hitting traffic. Oh, I'm at home a lot more now. There's plenty of times where I'll schedule calls after 7:30 when the kids are down. So I'll do some of that, and it's not without stress. But I think I can honestly say that our home life has been, I don't know, improved. Being I'm at home. I'm assuming my wife appreciates that too.
Well, I've seen you on your Instagram, pictures of you and your son at the job site. So that just looks really cool.
Yeah.
Dad and kid time together, seeing, what you do and bringing him along. That just looks really nice.
He'll be in the car with the grandparents and they drive by Home Depot. Hey, the daddy store.
So you mentioned you're also you're no longer working by yourself, but you've got other people working for you or with you. So tell me a little bit about kind of like that's got to be helpful that you're employing people to be able to do some of this work, both to free you up so you can be with your family, but also then helping other people with their families.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So I think we were really lucky in some ways. We've been able to, so especially, I'll give you an example, the Southwestern Ontario project, the Chatham and Blenheim projects that we have on the go. We set out to hire a laborer and we ended up finding somebody that has far more talents than what we initially imagined. So that's working out flawlessly. Like we can really rely on this particular gentleman that he's an employee. And certain projects in Hamilton, so, I'll need to evaluate in certain projects that are what we refer to, for what it's worth, like a lipstick renovation, relatively small renovation. Then I will work with certain sub-trades, certain trades that I've developed relationship with that I can rely on them to go in there and do this relatively in and out. And then I'm maybe managing that project, coordinating them. Projects that are full gut jobs are with general contractors, again, that I've developed a relationship, that I've built, that I've done other projects with. I'm now at a point where I'm actually partnering with one of the general contractors at one of these projects. But I've always, like while trying to focus on the business, I think there's always been a high emphasis on quality and workmanship, and me being directly involved with a lot of this and kind of keeping an eye on things from a final quality point of view. So if I were to give you an example, I've actually done a project where it was two semis. So I bought both of them in distress condition, renovated one, completed the renovation and sold it. And then the other one, the renovation ended up being delayed. We took a lot longer and now that one is complete. And I'm actually holding that one. So the latter one, I'm actually going to keep it as a short-term rental. Well, the first one, the lady that bought it, has had some minor concerns. So she assumed that I'm still the same owner, and she just kind of came over. Of course, we got guys in there to rectify, and it was something silly that I think the hot and cold water were switched in the basement. The basement's still empty. We easily addressed that. Not something that I would have noticed because it's one of those single lever faucet, and I guess I never really paid attention which way I was swinging it, but it didn't make a difference. So we easily reversed that. But little things like that, and then even the items that we use, I've been through a general builder's brand new home. I don't like, some of the finishing touches are the bare bones, the best that they can negotiate. I don't know that I can afford that kind of headache. I'd rather spend a little bit more on a toilet, on lighting. All the lighting that we do is LED, whether they're pot lights or like ceiling fixtures. Little things like that. I don't think that, especially considering the market, I don't think they're worth cutting corners on. So because of that, a lot of this, I'm still fairly involved. I'll drive down, I'll do my routes to site at least once every 2 to 3 days. I'll go to some of these projects and kind of walk through them and pick up on things. And and work with my guys to rectify anything that I see unfit.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, I know certainly with the one place I renovated, I haven't sold it. I'm holding on to it, but it is so reassuring to be able to go back to the guys who did the work and say, this is a little bit off, and have them say, yeah, of course I'll fix it. So, you're not loving them and leaving them. You're kind of there. I think that makes a big difference. To the confidence that people would have in what they're buying, but also then I think it's a testament to you with just your diligence and your interest in providing, not only just a good product in terms of like looking better now and helping people either with the new place that they own, or maybe it's an investment for people, but also then to know that, there's some assurance that, they've got somebody to be able to go back to, and they're not left hanging if there's, some conversation. And I hear you on the, it's a small thing, the hot and the cold water, but yeah, if people want the hot in one way and the cold in the other way, you're like, it's great that you're just open to do that and not, just really, kind of, I don't know, dogmatic on like, no, I'm out of here.
I've tried to surround myself. So I've been like, I guess my, let's say, success in developing this power team of sub trades and general contractors has come at a cost, because there's been projects where I worked with the wrong contractors. And that's always been my thing, is that, yes, I'm going to start outsourcing thing, but it's always knowing that if they screw up or if they delay the project, I can always jump in and I keep the project going. So there's been times where I've hired the wrong ones and they didn't do the work that I wanted them to, and I had to come in and fix it myself. And that's eventually, throughout these projects, I've been able to find the right ones. But I can give you another example where we had a project where we intended on finishing the basement and making it into not an apartment, but like a finished space. And then once we closed on it, there was so much debris in the way that we couldn't notice this, but we noticed that there were actual considerable foundation problems in that basement. And so that, all of a sudden our budget was off. So instead of hiding the problem, we decided to fix the basement foundation and not finish it. I would rather the future owner see that the foundation has been fixed and they need to do their own drywalling and whatever. I could no longer justify doing it on where this place would sell. So I'd rather leave it bare, but at least fix the problem. And instead of hiding it behind some drywall that you're going to see it on the next spring. So
yeah, I bought the place that our personal home right now. Yeah, we couldn't test out a couple of things when we bought in the winter, for the summer. And we were also equally surprised when we came to start up the air conditioner and it didn't go. So that I would appreciate, knowing what you got as opposed to, trying to hide it and making a couple more bucks. It's like, well, good for you.
Wiring is I find it, and as you grow, sometimes it gets a little bit more difficult to get into some of these projects, but like coming across a project where the wiring is remotely questionable, the whole thing gets rewired, whether or not we planned on it. Like if I end up doing a laminate instead of a higher end flooring, or reducing the budget in some other way that the homeowner can see from the front end, yeah, they cheaped out on the flooring, but I can change that, but I'm not going to not rewire the house. Like that's a way bigger problem. Anybody can lay down change a flooring here and there. If they pick they might change my high quality flooring because they don't like the color. So it doesn't matter, but the wire, nobody's going to argue with brand new wiring.
If you had any advice for someone that was looking to get into the real estate investment space, first time interested in doing something like that, what kind of advice would you give them?
The advice that I didn't take until really late in the game to obtain some form of mentorship, to obtain some form of coaching, or there has always been that mentality is that I can do it by myself. Why would I partner with somebody else? Well, with the right people that bring the right knowledge to the table, it's worth the equity. So not everybody needs to jump into this to do 10, 12 projects a year. There are plenty of investors that want in a real estate investment so that they can eventually retire from their job and just have this additional. But partnering with somebody is worth their weight in gold, in my opinion. And for the longest part, I stayed as a non-active, just a buy and hold. What is it that I call it? Buy, hold, and pray strategy. Partially because I was suffering from that mentality of not wanting to partner. I'm trying to think at this moment of all the projects that I have. I guess there's only one that I still have that it's all just me. So I have about 12 different projects that I'm involved with, and only one of them is on my own. And that's just because it kind of made sense, because it wasn't that hard to do it, but everything else is in some form of joint venture or partnership. I don't like to talk about how many doors I own. I own about 5 of them just in this room. But they're all active projects. Some of them I'm holding, some of them I'm going to be flipping. So it doesn't matter how many doors are being held.
Yeah,
well,
sure.
I really appreciate your spending the time and, communicating that you do quality work. I've heard, sometimes people have concerns about that. So that is great to hear, and your background. And then, I as I said, I follow you on Instagram and I see what you're doing with your family and your kids and everything. And it's just absolutely wonderful and I'm so grateful for having met you a couple of years ago, because you're, such a bright light in the renovation space. And I have, called out to you on a couple occasions asking for your advice on stuff. So we're going to put in the notes information about how you get in touch with Alex if you want to hear more about what he does, you want to hear more about the properties he's working on, etc. But just if people wanted to get a hold of you, Alex, what would be the best way for them to do that?
At this point, anything but social media becomes 1990s type contact information. So by all means, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, Alexandru.Mustatea. Alexandru is my full first name, legal first name. HammerCity REI. There's a separate account where I'm lacking hugely on the marketing side, and I think I need to do some work on that as well. To stay updated on some projects. But yeah, by all means, my social media handles will be the best way to get in touch with me.
Well, that is great. And then on behalf of all the people who are watching or listening this, we just want to say thank you very much. And we also, if you want to get a hold of Stacey or me, how do they do that, Stacey?
Yeah, they can reach us at equityhub.ca. We also have an Instagram handle. It is equity_hub. So feel free to reach us there at any time. And thank you so much again, Alex. We really appreciate your time, your expertise, and speaking with us today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you.